produce things.
Well, that's one thing I talk about in Comets and the Horns of Moses is the potential for genetic changes involved with these kinds of events, because there are several things that are produced by such a body that can induce genetic changes. One is is actually the light. Then there is electromagnetic frequencies that are emanated from the body as it passes through the atmosphere. There's some speculation by one person in a paper I read about heat shock proteins, that the heat shock can activate certain genetic changes. There's a variety of things that may be happening.
There's a history of mutation. Wasn't there was a mutation from the Tunguska event?
There were mutations not only in plants, but there was also one reported in a family where blood type actually changed. And all of these ancient stories of these kinds of disasters are accompanied by tales of freaks being born afterwards, either dwarves or giants, and most often cannibals. So, you can excuse the cannibal references by thinking that probably after such a series of events, that there is maybe a lack of food, there is starvation going on and people turn cannibalistic.
Or zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, but on the other hand, some of the Native American stories actually suggest that it wasn't a lack of food that turned people into cannibals, but a lust for human flesh. So
there's something to look forward to.
Yeah, so so you wonder if all of these tales of, say, werewolves and vampires and that sort of thing are something that were offshoots of these kinds of events. And after these events, there were probably several generations of extreme mutations that were, being faced or dealt with by the survivors. Some of these events were pretty horrendous.
I saw an article just today about part human fetus being born from a sheep in Nigeria, and I thought, well, hang on a minute. But then I remembered there have been several other stories like that. There was a lamb born in Turkey a couple of years back.
Yeah, but don't get too excited about that sort of thing, because we're also
just calm down.
I mean, we're all so similar in our genetics. Human beings and all the other creatures on the planet. They're just a few genes difference or something very often from species to species, so that some kind of genetic anomaly or some kind of fluke can cause a human to produce a child that looks animalistic, or a sheep to produce something that looks
crab hands.
Yeah, crab hands things. Because if you look at embryos of different species at certain stages, sometimes you can't even tell them apart. So if one of them, and the thing about a human baby is the most immature of creatures when it is born. It is still in the state that it should be gestated for probably another few years. So that if you have, say, a sheep embryo that kind of mutates to where it doesn't develop beyond a certain stage of development, it would come out looking sort of human. So so don't let these kind of tales carry you away there.
We just got a couple of questions here from a listener called Michael, and just getting back to what you were saying about your book Comets and Horns of Moses. He quotes you and says, from your book, he says, just as a few disease pathogens of exceptional virulence can take down a human system and incapacitate it or even kill it, so can a few deviant personalities and their networks of propagated pathogenic cohorts participate in the genesis of a kind of evil which envelops an entire nation.
Did I write that?
Apparently.
Wow.
And
that was a lot of alliteration there.
Yeah. And another quote, it seems that in a world where the people cannot or will not rise up against psychopathy and power, the cosmos will do it for them and take them out as well for their silence and acquiescence.
Apathy is the only sin.
So his Question is, we've kind of answered this, but his question is, our coming cataclysm is to restore our balance created by a few deviant personalities, but it's not just a few deviant personalities, it's an infection that spread throughout the population.
You remember back in the day when Bush and gang and all that kind of stuff were kind of like being a little bit taken to task for all the crap that they were doing, and all of their speeches were a few bad apples, is just a few bad apples. And I always point out that the second part of that saying is that a few bad apples ruin the bunch, right? That if you have a few bad apples, you have to throw out the entire bushel because it causes them all to rot, you know? And that's the same kind of situation we have here. If you allow your society to be taken over by pathocratic individuals,
the whole society is spoiled.
The whole society is pretty much perpetually spoiled. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. You just have to wait for it to basically, the fever to burn itself out. You either die in the course, which happens a lot with a lot of civilizations throughout history, or maybe you survive, or maybe you have, at some point. But
well, that kind of answers more or less his other the rest of his question, which was, or comment, which was, why does everyone have to take the blame?
Well, because you're responsible.
He says this is such a severe. I like the way he put this. This is such a severe paddle whacking on the rear, for God's sakes. And he says, who in their brilliant hyperdimensional mind came up with this scheme? Is this restoring to balance an impersonal force like gravity?
No, let me just say, we're sitting here, we're having this conversation, we're broadcasting this where anybody on the face of the planet could tune in and listen if they chose to. We have been writing and producing articles and books for the last umpteen years. The information is available. I say once again, if you have the access to the information and you blow it off, you've made a choice. You have condemned yourself. If you have the opportunity to see what is happening to your country, to your world, if you have the capacity, which you do, you have it. If you would just choose to stop being lazy in your brain and choosing the easy way out and the easy belief.
Here's an example, right? Clay Shirky, I love Clay Shirky, does this TED Talk. Aaron Schwartz is, a folk hero, all this stuff. They hear about the SOPA and the PIPA Act. This goes out, and basically everyone on the internet picks it up. They get access to the information. And these guys were not huge pundits. They just spread the information. And everyone latched onto it and said, oh, yeah. They burned up the telephones for Congress. They sent emails, signed petitions, all this different stuff, all this work when they heard about the SOPA and the PIPA BS. Now you have this Brenner guy. He's in Congress.
Brennan,
whatever his name is. He's in Congress right now, and he's saying,
we can kill people.
We can kill people. Thank you for that right, and promise not to do it meanly, or promise not to abuse this power, right? So this is the most ridiculous situation that you could ever possibly think of. Every libertarian right now should be
they should be marching on Washington.
They should march. I don't think that people should get violent. It's not a cause for revolution. I think that people should be burning up the phones of Congress. They should be sending them all these mails. They should be talking about this. None of them are.
Yeah.
If at that point, you hear about it, you don't do something about it. There's no big mass movement. There's no huge outcry. If I had to choose between the government can kill me anytime it wants or the government can monitor my internet connection, I kind of picked the internet connection one, to be honest. But apparently everyone else has said, no internet censorship, but it's okay if you kill us. That's
because you're protecting us.
And so
by
people
killing
deserve. They're getting this whole idea that, people are so innocent, they didn't know any better. It's like, yeah, you did. You totally knew better. Everyone knows better.
Yeah.
Every American citizen knows better than to accept Congress legalizing the murder of American citizens. But know better.
But a lot of them have been too traumatized or put into this state of kind of...
They've been warned about it.
They've been warned. They've been warned since the 1700s. They've been warned by all of the founding fathers who wrote about this. Don't do this. What happened when James II, right? When they kicked him out, I quoted this in my article. They kicked him out and repealing his laws, and one of them was that he was trying to get this right as well, or something like that. That he could just basically kill anybody as long as they weren't Protestant or something like that. That he had this rule that he could just kill anybody who was Catholic or something. and they specifically mentioned all of the powers that he was trying to seize. So, like, you have this situation where it's like, they've done this before, and it led to things like the Constitution, it led to things like the American Revolution, and all of these, founding father writers basically said, you can't do any of these, this is why there's the Bill of Rights, no preventing a person from having, life, liberty, and the pursuit of life, liberty, whatever, life, liberty, and property without due process of law. It was written there because people had done it in the past. Now they're doing it again. You're not doing anything about it. And then when you get killed, you don't have anyone to blame but yourself.
Yeah, and they've been systematically stripping away the Constitution, the liberties in the Constitution over the past 10, 15 years.
And this is exactly where everybody said it was going to go. For the last 10, 15 years, we've been saying it. Other libertarians have been saying it. Everybody's been saying, if you give up this right, eventually they will start. It will be like Nazi Germany. Everyone's like, oh, everyone always brings up Nazi Germany, all blah, blah. Yeah. And now it's like Nazi Germany. And it's like, oh, Jesus.
First they came for the Jews, that poem.
Yeah, that
No, they didn't come for the Jews first. They came for they came for the Unionists, and then the Communists, and then the Socialists, and then the Jews, and the Gypsies, and the Poles, and everything else. And then when it came for me, there was nobody to speak up.
Okay, so I'm just going to finish Michael's questions here, or his comments. He says, why can't the universe just allow us to live our collective free will, in quotes, and leave us to our totally repulsive antics, and see where it all takes us? He says, although I tender the thought that the results would be no better than a severe rush of comet.
Right, well,
okay.
But right there,
I have something
serious
to say. I have something serious to say on this, right? Because it does kind of come from a really, really messed up thing. Like, I'm going to pretend for a moment that I'm God. Now, this is totally not an ego thing. Okay? Totally not an ego thing.
It never is.
I'm going to pretend for a moment that I'm God. And that I'm creating the entire... I'm a creationist. Other people aren't. That's okay. You don't believe that, whatever. I'm going to pretend for a moment that I'm God and I'm creating the universe. Right? I am not creating the universe for you to play Angry Birds all day and, spend all your time on Facebook playing Farmville. That's not why I created the universe. And you know what? As the creator of the universe, I have the right to smite you when all you do is sit and wank off in front of your computer, play Farmville all day, and I mean, seriously, people are like, why can't the universe just leave us alone? It was like, well, you know what? It's my universe.
Okay.
Shit, dude. Live in it.
Well, Michael's
just
obviously expressing some kind of, probably a pretty common
He's got some existential angst
going on there. Yeah. But then he grasps at something. He mentions that in Laura's 2011 Barcelona talk, when you were in Barcelona, and that's on YouTube for anybody who wants to watch it. That it seemed geared to what you said at that conference seemed geared to an understanding that our collective DNA is designed to overcome in some way catastrophe. And
no, that's not what I was saying. What I was saying was that those people who have the capacity to see the truth, to act based on that truth, can possibly, through the acquisition of knowledge, activate certain DNA in their bodies that would enable them to be able to perceive and act according to the dictates of the universe and thereby survive.
Okay.
It was nothing about anybody sitting back and playing Farmville while their DNA activates. Believe me, Farmville ain't going to do it.
It's going to do the opposite, So then his final question is, and should we store acorns, pack our guns, accumulate cans of Campbell's soup, learn how to pray, revitalize our hibernating skills?
Well, I can guarantee you, if you do any of those things, your DNA will definitely not activate.
And he basically answers the last question, which is, are there any actual useful things to do other than just acquire a clear understanding of the situation we are in?
No.
Once you have a clear understanding, then you know what to do.
Well, he says, I tend to think that material survivalist preparation is not going to help a lot.